Hi, my name's Hannah Gordon, for those of you who don't know, which is no one in this room. My IMC client is Emerging Civil War. I'd like to start off by giving you guys a little background on the organization. It was started by a Jandoli School faculty. His name's Chris Makowski, and it was started in 2011. It is a public history organization committed to bringing original Civil War scholarship to entry-level readers. And though it has 3 active book series, it actually started as a blog and website. And it brings daily content 3 times a day, which is disseminated through Twitter and Facebook. Although the readers now, through my research I found, primarily get the information through the Facebook. There are also events, primarily the annual symposium, which draws a lot of attention in the Civil War community, where Emerging Civil War has gained a lot of popularity and traction over the past few years. So when Chris asked me to take on Emerging Civil War as my IMC client, I was a little confused because I was like, well, why? If you're gaining all this popularity and you're doing pretty well selling the books, what communications problem can I help you solve? Where are you guys needing help with your communications? And he brought up a good point. If you guys are not making, strides in bringing in new clients, and you're you're reaching the same audience, which they were, which is the primary Civil War audience in the Civil War community, who is going to read Emerging Civil War or be engaged with the audience when that audience is no longer reading Emerging Civil War? So my primary objectives for my campaign are to create awareness and encourage engagement with a new audience, which I've identified as 18 to 29-year-olds, American men and women who are socially, politically, and environmentally engaged. I want to position Emerging Civil War as an accurate, compelling, and clear communicator of American Civil War history. My marketing communications objectives are to create awareness through social media advertising, create engagement with this audience through a website redesign, addition of digital assets, and a public relations campaign. And I want to create a feeling of membership through a partnership program. Like I said, my research showed that they are reaching their current target market. Like Chris said, they're reaching the current Civil War audience. And if you really think about, picture the Civil War audience member, that typical older white male, 60 to 70 plus age, although they are reaching the little bit younger audience member in the 40s, 50s, and a little bit into their 30s as well. They're college educated, and they're reading Emerging Civil War pretty regularly. They love to read history, and they are really enthusiastic about reading wars and conflict. They frequent the ECW blog and the Facebook, and they do also sometimes read the Twitter, although not as frequently. And they prefer to read print books, but they are not also, they're also ready to read any ECW title that comes out just because it is ECW. The new market is not extremely interested in history, but they do see its value, and they are engaged in it enough to believe that if you understand history, that you can change the future. So that is one of their primary sentiments, and that sentiment's not lost on the older target market, though it's not one of their deep-rooted beliefs. They're active primarily on Facebook and Instagram, and they did write in a lot that they were active on Snapchat, and that's one of the flaws in my research, so I'm very thankful that they wrote in that they were active on Snapchat, because I didn't have as an option that they could click that they were active on Snapchat. And they also do prefer to read print books. My last survey was a qualitative survey, and although most of the data from this survey wasn't very valid because I pivoted my campaign, the biggest point that came out of this was the idea that how people perceive people that are interested in history. And I thought it was interesting because people perceive people that are interested in history as older and male. And that is the current target market that ECW is reaching right now. So they are older and male. And intellectual, curious, interested in learning. But the biggest point here is that they're invested in the correlation of the past, present, and future. And though the current market doesn't see themselves as interested in history, they see the value. So maybe they are interested in history because they're interested in the past and how it affects the future. They're interested in the impact of the future, and they want to make an impact in the future. So they see people who are interested in history as invested in the past, present, and future in that correlation, and they're also interested in the impact in the future. So people who are interested in the past, present, and future, we're targeting them. The most we know about them is that we're excuse me. My campaign is targeting 18 to 29-year-old men and women who are invested in the past, present, and future, and they want to make an impact. What they know about ECW right now is nothing. We'd like them to think that ECW is the most important place to learn the impact of American Civil War history. And the most persuasive idea we convey is that if you know the past, you can shape the future, because the future started here. The future started in April of 1861 when the Confederates fired on Fort Sumter. The future started tomorrow, 100 years from now. So what is this generation going to do tomorrow that is going to affect the future 100 years from now? ECW can teach them that. So how are we going to convey that message to them? We've got integrated campaign tactics. We've got digital platform updates, advertising, public relations and partnerships, and Twitter conversations. Our website redesigned because our website is a little bit outdated. Although it's easily navigatable, it's, like I said, outdated and easy for the older generation, but not as aesthetically pleasing for the younger one. So we'd like to make it more image-based and have more video on it. We have all the video equipment ready. And the digital driving tours, because we have driving tours available in each of our books now, so we can make them available in our on our website through Google Maps by putting pinpoints in and having excerpts from the books and images from the books already. Advertising, we've got Facebook video and Snapchat geofilters. So the Snapchat geofilters will be available on battlefields and historic parks. Instagram campaign will be twofold because we'll have the native content on the feeds, and we'll have the actual advertising campaign in the feeds. And the advertising campaign will focus on the unheard voices in the emerging Civil War, because the emerging Civil War tagline right now is new voices and fresh perspectives, and they're not really holding true to that. So voices like Clara Barton, and although we know Harriet Tubman, voices of women and people of color are not voices really being heard throughout emerging Civil War right now. The public relations and partnerships, the pop-up tours will be twofold as well. We'll divide that into two age groups. The 18 to 24-year-olds will be the college-aged audience, so those will be promoted in on campuses near battlefields and historic sites. So those will be promoted on clubs and in classrooms. And then the 25 to 29-year-olds will be promoted in libraries, in like coffee houses and things like that. And that'll be a great place for our historians to interact and actually storytell throughout. And then the partnerships will be the National Park Service American Battlefield Protection Program, the Civil War Trust, and the Sculpt the Future Foundation. And that'll be where the environmentalism comes in. So this is a great place to have the American Battlefield Protection Program and the Civil War Trust focus on the battlefield protection. So the Sculpt the Future focuses on environmental agencies. So if those two come together, it only makes sense to have that focus on an age group that really wants to go green and focus on green efforts. So it only makes sense to pair them together. And the Twitter conversation, it makes It's no secret that we live in a very volatile political landscape right now. So it makes sense to have a place where we hashtag ask a historian. If we are constantly fighting online about where a Confederate monument actually came from, who really paid for it, what really happened here, what battle really happened where, why don't we hashtag ask a historian and go to the ECW historians? They have the information, they've really written the books. Let's let them answer the questions. So that leads us right into the campaign timeline. This campaign set off to go right into 2019. So we've got our website redesign and our Instagram creation right in the beginning of the year. And then we're quiet for a little bit because our parks don't open until late April. And then we've got advertising every other week on different platforms so as to not saturate the platform and overwhelm our audience. But we do have our pop-up tours and organizational partnerships going right away with advertising and going on. Just because our volunteers, our historians are volunteers, so they would be working as much as they want to and as often as we want to, so that's why it's a solid line down here and throughout the third quarter. Our Snapchat geofilters are only once a month and in the third week. I chose the third week just as a random week in here. I would be working with the historians because they work, most of them, full-time at the parks. So that I'd be working with them to figure out which week in the month would be the best week to pick at which park, to pick which geofilter would be the best to identify which park to go at. And that would be a monetary issue to pick which one. And then in the fourth quarter, November and December, this is where we'd be running our evaluative survey from our benchmark survey where we decided, where we found out that we were working at our original, where we found out we were originally getting our, completely lost my train of thought.
The original data.
Yeah, we got our original data. Thank you for the word. We got our original data on our people, our
Target market.
yeah, target market. Thank you. And then we got our campaign budget. So our blue box right here is our total campaign budget at $7,690. And then our red boxes here, as I said, our Snapchat geofilters is the majority of our campaign budget at $4,000. And then the rest of our budget is just smaller breakdowns of promotions and our partnership promotions, which we just have broken down: targeted ads, campus outreach, and pamphlets, social media promotions, just the per week and the total media per week. And then our pop-up tours are flyers, social media ads, and campus outreach. And our return on investment. Every plan has a return on investment except ECW, because we are filing for not-for-profit status this year. Our return on investment is expressed in followers. So for every $14.40 spent on this plan, ECW can expect to gain 1 new engaged follower. And this reflects back on my objectives because every follower is, adds into that 20%. And there's a focus on Instagram because that overall 20%, 30% of that can be found on the Instagram. And every good IMC plan needs a evaluation. So the follow-up survey would be to the benchmark survey we originally did, so like you said, to the data that we gathered in the beginning. So where we found out that we were reaching that typical Civil War audience, we are now reaching, we could find out if we're now reaching that new demographic by the follow-up survey. Observational evaluation of the social media could tell us if we are getting engagement from the new demographic via likes, shares, etc. And tactical evaluation. We could do surveys before and after events like the pop-up tours to see what people know about our historians, emerging Civil War, and the Civil War in general before and after the events. So in conclusion, Emerging Civil War has a great opportunity here to become a voice on America's biggest conflict and teach a whole new generation about this entire issue. Thank you.